Hello, Shanae. Shanae, you're on mute. Sorry.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad I can join. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's lovely to have you. Shanae is one of our 2021 mentees. So it's very exciting to see her face again. Hello, everybody. If you can drop a hello in our chat box. Tell us how you guys are doing. Hi, Mpo. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good. We're just going to wait for a couple more people to join, I think. In the meantime, guys, please chat like 2 or 3 minutes while we just let a couple more ladies in.
Do you want me to launch the poll, Raksha?
Yeah, maybe we can. So we're going to start off our session today, ladies, with a quick poll. So while we're waiting for a couple more people to come through, maybe let's start with that. Thanks, Bryony.
My pleasure. There it is.
Right. So our first poll today is obviously in line with our topic, and our topic being our own personal board of directors. And I guess the first thing is, has everybody even heard about what a personal board of directors is? I first heard about this concept a couple years ago, and I was introduced to it by Bryony, and it was such a captivating discussion that we had, and such an eye-opener in terms of what this whole concept is. And I remember thinking at the time that these specific people that represented this board already sort of existed in some shape or form in my life, but I just never really put them around a table. So when this topic was introduced as part of our mentoring program, and by the way, everyone, this is the second session in our July month as part of the WIMSA 2022 mentoring program, which is open to all of our members. So welcome if you are not one of our mentees. This concept introduced to our mentees as last year and at this year becomes so important in the journey of mentorship as well as personal and professional development. So we've got some really wonderful ladies on our panel today who are going to share more on this topic, tell us a little more about their experiences. And yeah, please use the platform to ask questions, to share your thoughts, share your ideas. And we really want this to be a very interactive session so we can all learn from each other as well as from our wonderful ladies. If I can start by quickly introducing our panel, you all know our mentorship guru and our personal coach, Bryony Lieber. We're also joined today by two very special ladies who are actually two of our sponsors in the mentorship program. So the first we have is Mbali Malanzi. Sorry, am I saying that right? Malanzi, who is a director of sales and business development at Sepa Basadi Group. So thank you so much for your sponsorship, Mbali, as well as for being here today. And our second lovely lady is Sidi Anya, who is the regional HR director for Africa and the Middle East of WIMSA Minerals. Again, many thanks to you for your sponsorship. And both of you have got many of your ladies in our program today. So I hope they're all in attendance and on their best behavior as well. So let's see. So I don't know if you want to we'll keep this running for a couple more minutes, Bryony. And maybe while we have the poll open, we can start with a bit of an introduction. And Mbali, maybe you can give us a brief snapshot into who you are and tell us a little bit as well about Sepa Basadi.
Thanks, Raksha. So I'm one of the directors of Sepa Basadi. Founded Sepa Basadi with my business partner Tabile Nkomo. I studied chemical engineering at the University of Witwatersrand, and went to work at BHP Billiton at the time, which later became South 32. So I started there as a professional in training, and worked my way to the projects office where I became a project manager. And that's where I met Tabile and we started working together. And that's when we formed our passion and love for project management. And I guess since then, I've never looked back. I got my PMP from Project Management Institute. I got my master's in project management. So yeah, and I think, when we formed Tsepa Basadi, we formed it as a niche project management consulting firm that would address our clients' needs in terms of meeting their capital portfolio demands. A lot of our clients are clients that, have varying degrees of project management maturity. And we are there to offer a service and help them to deliver their projects. So yeah, we've got a staff of about 60 professionals in the industry, all stationed from Cape Town to Johannesburg, and mostly in the Northern Cape. We have a strategic partnership with Hatch, where most of our Johannesburg staff is. So I won't go into the detail of who's who and what they do. But yeah, we're working on a very big project for Kumba Iron Ore. And yeah, so we've been growing from strength to strength for the past 5 years. Love what I do. Love making an impact in young people's lives. I get to help a little bit with an unemployment crisis in our country by hiring people. And I think that's part of what is very rewarding about what we do. It's not without its challenges, but I think that's what keeps it interesting. And yeah, I mean, just being part of this program and having our ladies as part of this program is just a testament to what growing businesses, or what others refer to as SMMEs, can really contribute towards this country and the economy. So I'm a mother as well, and a wife, and I love to travel. That's just some of the interesting bits and pieces of my life. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you very much, Raksha.
Oh, thanks so much, Mbali. So we'll definitely come back with lots of questions, because obviously when you and Tabile started that, I'm sure board of directors may or may not have been a part of the initial discussion. So we'll definitely touch on that with you. Siri, if you can maybe just give us a brief background of yourself and tell us a little bit about WIA and your role at WIA.
Raksha, thank you so much, and Brioni, for the invitation. And I'm glad I'm seeing, some of our ladies on the call, and I'm glad to meet everyone else on the call. Just in terms of who I am an HR professional, with experience, a multidimensional experience across the African continent mainly. And what I believe in is that HR is my true calling, and I'm really passionate about women development, ethical HR delivery, a future of work, and inspirational leadership, diversity and inclusion, and most importantly, fair employee relations. I think those are some of the passions that I find in HR. I started my career at the CCMA, where at some point I was the youngest CCMA commissioner. I was only 26 when I was appointed as CCMA commissioner. Wow. And I think that's where I got my grounding in terms of the fair employee relations. From CCMA, I moved to the National Treasury. So I did work in government. And I think they are a stakeholder that we, sometimes in private companies, we should not forget and we should respect. So I worked at the National Treasury, and there I was the head of labor relations. And thereafter I joined Sasol, and I was at Sasol for 10 years, where I held various senior HR positions. And during my tenure at Sasol, I also had an opportunity for an international stint. So I went to an international assignment to Lagos, Nigeria, and I think that just provided and gave me a view to the world outside South Africa, and to the advantages that we have in Africa. Then thereafter, from Sasol, I then joined a company called Ecolab. I was the HR director there for Sub-Saharan Africa. And before I joined WIA Minerals, where I am now, I was working for British American Tobacco, and I was the head of HR Southern Africa. Over and above, in terms of just my professional experience, I am also a qualified executive coach, and I work part-time as an executive coach, mostly at business schools across South Africa. Some of you may be on the call if you've attended a women development course, whether at Wits or at Henley. You might have maybe met up with me as your coach. And I'm just an advocate for positive psychology. And I strongly believe that gratitude, social connection, this kind of interactions and kindness are all important for us to live our best life. I'm a married mother as well of 3 adorable kids. They keep me grounded. They are actually on my board of directors. And I believe in having just this integrated life, which does not really compromise important aspect of one's life. And in terms of qualifications, I do have a Bachelor of Administration in psychology. I did my advanced diploma in labor law, and I've got a master's degree in business and executive coaching. I also have a postgraduate diploma in business studies from GIBS. And I'm currently a doctorate student at GIBS. So it's not easy, but yeah, it's 24 hours in a day.
I don't know how you ladies juggle all of this. That's just unbelievable. Oh my word. Thanks, Sidi. Looking forward to hearing how your kids play their role on the board of directors. I think that's going to be a nice learning for a lot of us as well. Okay, so I feel like this lady needs no introduction at all, because again, she's our guru in throughout this journey. So, but Bryony, perhaps for those who don't know you, you can give them a brief introduction and maybe also just take us into this concept with regards to the board of directors, and we can have a look at the results from our poll as we hear about it.
There we go. I'm going to share the results. Yeah, thanks, Raksha. I'm Bryony Lieber. I have my coaching business, Bryony Lieber Coaching, and the majority of my clients are mission-driven women in STEM careers, largely in the mining industry. And I say mission-driven because most of my clients come to me saying that they want to make a much bigger impact than just in their careers. And so a lot of the work that we do is around helping them position themselves, finding their voices, defining their story, and positioning themselves as experts so that they can make an impact in their careers, in their organizations, in their industries, and in the lives of people that they mentor and coach themselves. Before I went into coaching, I worked in the mining industry for just short of 20 years in environmental and social risk management, and I spent a lot of time on quite a number of mines across Africa and South America. So the mining industry really is a huge love of mine, and I thought I was going to leave it when I moved into coaching, but I have been drawn back into it fully, and it really does feel like home for me. I think in the transition from moving from being an employee to running my own business, the concept of managing myself as a business became loud and clear for me. In my consulting career, we were always told you need to manage yourself like you're a business within a business. You need to be responsible for bringing in your own clients, invoicing your clients, managing your budgets, managing your projects, finding the people who are going to work on your projects with you. You need to market yourself, you need to network. All of the roles that you would have in a business as a consultant, we were told we needed to play. And that made a lot of sense as a consultant, but it made so much more sense when I started to run my own business. And the background that I had in consulting and the appreciation of being an entrepreneur in my career really helped me set up my business. And as part of that, my coaching approach has really been to coach people around managing their careers as a business, positioning themselves as a CEO of the business, and identifying who their personal board of directors are so that they have people who intentionally influence, encourage, support, inspire, challenge, question, and mentor and coach them. And a lot of the work that we've done in this mentoring program in the last 2 years and that I do with my clients individually is around being very intentional, being very curious, being very purposeful in how you manage your career, in how you solicit inputs into your career, and specifically how you surround yourself intentionally by people who are going to help you rather than hinder you. because we are not islands and we don't go anywhere in this world without being surrounded by people. It's very easy to be expedient and to hang out with people who make life fun and easy. It's a lot harder to be intentional and to say, these are the things that I want to achieve in my life and in my career, and these are the people that I'm intentionally selecting to support me and guide me along that journey. And so that's really the concept. It's not my concept. It's not a new concept. There are lots of people who talk about a personal board of directors. I think the spin that I've added onto it is incorporating it into a career value chain and looking at all the different elements of your career that expand on the principle of you being a professional into being the CEO of your career. That's me. Thanks, Raksha.
So I think from our poll as well, thank you, Bryony, we've got 43% of the people who answered it that actually had no idea in terms of what a personal board of directors were. So I really hope that those 43% of people do take something positive away and start implementing it at the end of this journey. For the 54% of you that said you were aware of the concept, please share some of your thoughts, comments, questions in our chat box as well, so that we can further engage on this. To kick it off, I think, Mbali, if we can start with you. So when you and Tabile started this business many years ago, you obviously would have needed to institute a board at some point, one would assume. So how did that feature in your thinking? You know, what did the concept mean to you, and what does your board look like today?
Yeah, so I think starting a business is just something else, because you generally don't go into it already thinking about the structures that are required to run the business. I think I remember we actually had a coaching session with, the 3 directors at the time. And I think that was pretty much our board, the people who had formed the organization. And we had a coach, and that coach was pretty much part of the board in terms of helping us to set up the strategic objectives of our business and checking in every now and again in terms of, are we still on the right path? However, I think with most, business people and entrepreneurs who are starting out, you have to kind of be intentional about researching what a board is and, whether you need one or not. But I think personally, for my career journey, I have, kind of been thinking about what it is that what role a board plays, and whether I need one, and who are the people that are in my board, and I think they somehow help me in my business journey as well. But for the business per se, we do not have a structured board. And I think it's probably because there's a lot of legislature that is, that surrounds whether you would need a board for your business or not. However, we do have people that we sometimes lean on for expert advice to help us and to guide us. And those are our coaches and people that we've met in industry. So, yeah.
Okay. Sidi, you had mentioned your kids as part of your board, right? So you have a personal board of directors, right? Can you maybe share with us what triggered you creating this board?
Yeah, thanks, Raksha. So, I came across this, it was actually introduced to me as an executive team in terms of your career aspirations. Who are the people that you would want on the executive team? I'm glad now I've learned that it can actually be upgraded from executive team to a board of directors. So this, I was just privy to it now with Bryony and the last 2 weeks. But I think for me is in managing your career as if it's a business, right? And I think Bryony talked about it. That's how I came up to this concept. And in that aspect is that you need to have, and I'll talk the typical HR language, right? You would need to have specific intention in terms of where you want to go. What's your definition of victory? Where is it that you want to go? Knowing where you want to go, then you would need to know who are those people that are actually going to help me along the way. And some of those people, in terms of the box that they feel are my kids. And I think it's because they strengthen me during difficult times, really, and they give me that sense of purpose. When it's all dark and gloom outside, and you come home and it's you look at them. For me, that's what I'm like. I ain't giving up. I've got these 3 kids that just by looking at them. So I think that's why I include them on my executive team or board of directors.
Okay. And Molly, from your perspective, what does your personal board look like? How did you create it?
So it was by happenstance that I created my board of directors. I think I didn't know that there was a concept like this. Probably, Brian, you have told me once upon a time, but I've forgotten. I mean, it's mostly made up of coaches. And that is very intentional. I don't, like Bryony said, no man is an island. You need help to help you to get where you want to go. And once you figured out that I don't have it all figured out, then you need to start reaching out to certain people. And I have people that I reach out to at certain points in my life. Bryony is one of them. There's other coaches that I also reach out to specifically for the business, for life coaching. My husband is one of the board members. He plays the encourager and the devil's advocate in my board of directors. When I just need someone to give me a different perspective on something, he will tear it apart and help me to think through things in a completely different way. But also when I'm down on myself, whether there's something really wrong that happened at work, or, I feel I didn't do well in something, he's there to encourage me and to just give me a pat on the back and say, you tried your best, and, it's not as bad as you think it is. So yeah, and I have ex-colleagues that are on my board of directors. They play roles such as sponsors, because they've seen me develop in my career. They've seen me grow Tsepa Basadi. I think, because of that relationship, they are people who will easily say, I trust this person can do the job, and they will give you that referral or connect you to the people that can help you to grow your brand or your career. I've got clients also as part of the board, people that you develop a relationship with over time. And when you're not sure of something, even if it's not within the typical business or service offering that you provide to them, but because you've developed sort of relationship with them, you can reach out to them and get a perspective from them on an issue that you might be having or something that you want to pursue. So I've even got employees as part of the board of directors. And I think we'll probably delve into that a bit later, but they also play their role in the board. And I think it's made up of different people who add different flavors to my life, and who all play a very important role at each and every juncture of my career and of my life.
Yes, I've also noticed that at different stages of the journey, or the career journey specifically, the board evolves and the board changes, and people almost tag team in and out, or they wear different hats depending on what it is that we need. And it's important as well to have that balance of encouragement and constructive criticism and challenge, and what the fuck are you doing? Sorry, kind of story. It's important because it keeps us real and it keeps us grounded. And so Bryony, through a process like that, how does one go about like trying to establish this in terms of like, do you screen people, or is there a screening method or process that we should undertake, in terms of looking for the type of people that should constitute this board?
So I've shared a link to the blog that I wrote about the 10 seats that you should fill on your board of directors. And a couple things that I say in there are, firstly, you want to have a board of directors that is as diverse as possible, because it's very easy for us to get very kind of blinkered in our approach and very caught up in thinking that we know what we know because we actually don't know what we don't know. And so the more diverse our board is, the more perspectives we get on different things, the more we can see things in different ways and get a much richer view of our lives, of our careers, and of how we could make decisions. So before we talk about any seats, I think it's important to think about, are you surrounding yourself with people who are like you, who are different to you, who are younger than you, who are older than you, who have come from different cultures to you, different countries to you, different ways of thinking about the world, different industries to you, different professions. Every every aspect of diversity that you can think of, look for ways to incorporate diverse people into your board of directors. The amount of things that I've learned over the last couple years from people who are very different to me has been phenomenal. It's opened up my eyes to things that I thought I appreciated, but I had no idea how ignorant I was. The second kind of dimension of this is around starting to think of who are the types of people that you need to surround yourself with. So it's very easy to surround ourselves with people who encourage us and say the things that they think we want, or the things that they think we want to hear. Our friends and our family and our loved ones, those are all those people. They say things that they want to keep us comfortable. They want us to keep us happy. But actually the people that we need on our board of directors by and large are the people who challenge us, who ask us really difficult questions, who help us brainstorm and see different things, who can coach us, can ask us questions. They don't give us the answers, but they ask us questions that really get us to think about things in a very different way. People who kind of act like our Google, who have access to information that we just don't have access to or don't have time to access, and very easily share that information with us. My favorite board member, because I have quite a few of them, and I don't know why I keep collecting these as board members, is the anti-mentor. And I suspect I'm an anti-mentor on other people's boards as well. And the anti-mentor is that kind of person who acts as a red flag, indicating how you might be if you're not intentional about the way that you show up. They are the person who might be technically brilliant at what they do, but people avoid working with because they're so unpleasant to be around. And I know that I went through a phase when I was in kind of very close to burnout, where I got quite shouty with people. And it's not a proud time of my life, and I'm pretty sure that as a result I ended up on some people's boards as their anti-mentor, the kind of the image of who they don't want to be. And I've got quite a few anti-mentors who remind me of how I could be if I'm not intentional in the way that I show up. A lot of my board members are people that don't know that they're board members. A lot of them are people that I've never met. So I think the other thing to think about is these don't have to be people who are in your direct environment. These can be people who you see on the stage, in social media, in movies, in books, in any kind of part of your life, who share a message that inspires you to be better, to play bigger, to take more risks, to get out of your comfort zone. And one of those, for instance, for me would be somebody like Brené Brown, who talks about shame and vulnerability the whole time. And every time I'm having a moment of going, I need to step into the shadows, I kind of go, well, what would she do? And so she's one of my directors. She doesn't know me, I don't know her, but I know everything about her through her books. Yeah, I could go on, but I'm going to stop there because I'll take over.
That's fine. And I think what is important as well about what you said in that is your board of directors is not there to give you all of the answers. It's there to direct your thinking, to challenge the thinking, to try and help you get to that point on your own through the discussions and the conversations and the support as well that they offer. Sorry.
I think what I want to add there is, 20, 30 years ago, we studied a degree and we went into that profession and that's where we stayed. Our careers were fairly linear, okay? These days, the world is so much more chaotic. We study a degree, then we study a different degree, then we can't find a job in that particular profession, so we pivot into something else. And by the time you've kind of worked for 10, 15 years, you've probably been in 3 different careers. Then you hit COVID and find that your profession no longer exists and you've suddenly got to reinvent yourself again. And to do that on your own is so hard. And I think that is one of the main reasons for having a board of directors these days, is to have people who give you support in thinking differently and helping you be agile and thinking out of the box.
Yeah, that sense of support is priceless in every shape or form. And I think it's that acknowledgement as well that we need the sense of support that becomes so important, because we all try to be superheroes sometimes, and it's not easy for anyone, right? Sidi, you've had a bit of a transition, obviously, as you've come from a CCMA commissioner to the HR director now. What was your journey like in terms of the change of directors that constituted your board to sort of transition you through the career path? Or how do they play a role, maybe?
I think the most important one is that in terms of just sponsors, right? Or, I would call them navigators, people that actually, I've always been a bit clearer in terms of what is it that I want in terms of my career, not that at all times it turned out the way it is, but it's just the intention, right? In terms of this is where I actually want my career to go. And, I would then look and check in terms of what are some of those people that would help me. I learned later in my career that, if you want someone to sponsor you, you actually tell them or you ask them, right? And, initially I just, I used to think that, what, my work will speak for me. And I think that's what, we always do. My work will speak for me. They will see it. I'm going to flipping work hard. Someone will notice me. But I think it was later in my career that I realized, no, other people are actually doing it better. They ask for sponsorship. They tell people where they want to go. Because not everyone is a sangoma. People don't know, right? Or maybe they're not future tellers in terms of, maybe Sidi wants to go into this position. So I think in terms of my career, I learned later that I can actually knock on doors and ask in terms of, something that I want out of my career, and be vocal in terms of where I think or where I want my career to go. And I think Brioni touched on something that is quite interesting for me as a career. I'm unapologetic about where I want my career to go, right? And I'm driven, and I really want to get to that highest level. And I'm also a mother. So Brioni, when you talk about sometimes people that are different from you, that will challenge you. So when as a family, we moved to Nigeria, one of the advices that we got from this relocation agent was that at the school where your kids go, you must actually maybe participate in parents-teacher forums and all that. And I participated in that when we got to Lagos, and the perspective I got from mothers, who are not working, right? And sometimes we sit and we think, actually they're sitting at home because they don't want to. And I got so much involved, and I learned so much by, how should I be a mother, and how can I marry the two? How not to judge, other mothers who are actually sitting at home. And coming back, I must tell you now, I'm at my kids' school, one of the heads I wear that I'm actually now the PTF chairperson, right? And it's something that I enjoy doing, because in that space, it's not a corporate space. It's a space where we sometimes just bake cupcakes, right? Or we just choose, but it just ground me as a mother. And it's one of the positions that I really enjoy having. So it's not always that you sometimes find that it's people in high profile jobs, or for me, just sitting in that PTF meeting and really talking about how are we going to plan a Boki Post day. Those are some of the things that really help me just to keep me a little bit grounded. And that's a forum that I choose to participate in, just in terms of my board of directors.
That's an important role as well, in terms of keeping you grounded and keeping you real, right? Because it then allows you to challenge the thinking in, to focus on the other stuff, because it eliminates other noise or whatever it is. I don't know, Bryony, is that how it ties in?
100%. And I just wanted to kind of flip around to how I have mothers on my board of directors, because I'm not a mother. I don't have children. I've never had to hold children accountable, kind of manage boundaries, deal with that sort of thing. But by watching some of the mothers that I worked with and how their management style was completely different to mine, they managed their teams like their teams were their children. They told them exactly what they wanted. They told them how they wanted it. They kind of delegated in a journey. They held them accountable. And I just looked at that and went, I'm missing out on a whole bunch of skills because I'm not a mother. And so I intentionally have mothers on my personal board of directors, because there is so much I've learned from them in terms of how to manage a small team of people, because basically that's what you're doing as a mother. You have a small team or a large team of people in your home that you've got to keep kind of moving forward.
It's true. Each of these different sort of roles or hats that we all wear brings a different set of learning and skill set as well that we can take into these boards and these spaces as well. Mbali, how do you engage with your board members? I mean, you've mentioned clients and coaches and sponsors, and at what point do you start reaching out to them, throughout the process?
Yeah, and I just want to circle back. Sorry, Raksha, and I'm going to answer that.
Yeah, go for it.
I actually have a few people who are not mothers in my board of directors. However, they give me, I think with mothers, we have a very loud inner critic. You tend to be very hard on yourself. You think you're not doing enough. Oh, the other mothers bake cupcakes and I didn't. And because I had to be at work until 10 p.m., but, one of my coaches, and she's part of the, the board of my personal board of directors. And she said to me, obviously don't take advantage of what you can't achieve, but your children are forgiving. And you need to have that dialogue with yourself to say, it's not so bad, and engage your children and help them to understand where you are in life and bring them with you on that journey. So I got that perspective from someone who's not even a mother. So I totally, concur that having that diversity in your board of directors certainly helps, because, I don't know what another mother would have said. Perhaps they would have judged me, perhaps not, but she was fairly understanding. And then to your question around how I engage my board of directors, I think it's two-pronged. It's sometimes planned and intentional, but sometimes it's as and when required. So in terms of mentoring and coaching, if I feel that there's a specific issue or something that I really want to work on. So at the moment, I'm really working on where I want to go in terms of my career. I'm working on my purpose and just remapping And I reached out to an ex-coach of mine, and I started working with her on that. And she's also an NLP coach, and I have structured times where I meet up with her. And at certain times when I feel that, you know, I need to work on the business in terms of where the business is going, there's a coach for that. If I have, and I need to set up a structured time to meet up with that coach, whether it be on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And there's also mentors that have been there, done that. I'm stealing from your book, from your article, right? You know, they've been there, done that. And every now and again, you just need to touch base. Am I seeing things correctly? This is what's happening in my space. Am I at a point where my business needs a board or not? Those are some of the questions that you sit down with someone who's done it before, and you go through some of that thinking process, and how do I build my business, etc. So, but you need to call up those people, and you need to make time for them, and be cognizant of the fact that they have a diary as well. But sometimes it's haphazard, and it's you have an emergency, and you need to reach out to someone, and you need help, and it can't wait. And there's people for that. And sometimes the mentors and coaches, if they're available, they can help you with that. But my husband, for instance, if I'm at home, I reach out to him, or during the day if I need a devil's advocate or an encourager. If I have a work issue or a crisis, I can reach out to any one of my employees who I feel would be able to assist me with that issue. So it varies, but I think if you're being intentional about building your career, you definitely have to identify those people that are going to help you to get there, and stop making time in your own diary to see those people, whether it be your mentor or your coach and your sponsors. Even like Siri had mentioned, that as you're working on your career and you're starting to reach certain milestones, you need to go to your sponsors and say, hey, I got my PMP, can you sponsor me for a role that I've been eyeing? You need to start being intentional about reaching out to those people as and when you reach your milestones.
So even with the board of directors, we need to have a very clear plan and purpose in terms of what it is that we're looking to achieve, the roles that they play, and then being so intentional about the journey that we walk with them when we sit around that table, right? And if I can ask as well, so was there ever a time that any of you had an experience or went through a situation where you wish you had a board to have assisted you, probably before you discovered these concepts, that maybe you can share with us to give us perspective? Because we've got quite a lot of people in the room who have never had the pleasure of having a board around them. So I don't know if anyone has something that they could share with us.
Yeah, I certainly can. About 6 years ago, I went through burnout in my career, and I went from being really, really competent in what I was doing to literally climbing into my car every day and bursting into tears and not wanting to go to work. And I was becoming really disengaged, and I just didn't want to get involved in anything. And then I'd go home and kind of disengage from family life and friends and so on. And I really was not kind of in the best version of myself. And I struggled to talk about that with anybody. And I didn't know how to talk about it because it felt so uncomfortable to me, and it made me so vulnerable. And that's when I first kind of came across Brené Brown's work on vulnerability. And she was kind of the first board member for me, because I was able to take a huge amount of wisdom from her book. But I wish I had intentionally had a board of directors before that who I could have talked to about what I was going through. Somebody who'd been through burnout before, somebody who'd been in the type of position that I was in, somebody who knew what it was like to be a people pleaser, to not have boundaries, to really struggle to say no. Somebody who could kind of say to me, look at it in a different way. And instead, I had a lot of people around me saying, oh, Bryony, it's fine. It's absolutely, don't worry. You're not going through burnout. You're absolutely fine. Just, yeah, have a cookie. A cookie will make it all better. And a lot of people who kind of wanted to put a plaster over what was going on and really didn't want to have the tough conversations with me. And I eventually went to see a coach, and he asked me some really, really hard questions and got me to see a lot of the things that I just wasn't conscious of. And then the next step for me was I was sitting having breakfast with some friends, and I was moaning about the fact that I just couldn't imagine that I was ever going to be able to do anything else. And somebody who was there, I didn't know her very well, she said to me, well, tell me about what you do. And by the time I'd finished kind of painting a picture of all the different things that I do that to me were so normal, she was like, your CV must be amazing. You could do this and this and this and this, and why aren't you doing this, and think about that and go do that, and why are you putting up with this? And I came away from that breakfast going, oh my God, I don't know if I'll ever have a conversation with this woman again, but she's been pivotal in opening my mind. And so for a moment in time, she was part of my board of directors. And I think because we don't know what we don't know, we really need to surround ourselves with people who know more than us. And it's so tempting to be the cleverest person in the room because, it fills the ego. But actually, you want to be in the room where you are the least clever, where you are surrounding yourself by people who've got more experience, who are braver than you, who do things differently to you because they can spot what's going on before you can. And they can help you find the answers. But it's really, when I was going through burnout, that is the time where I wish I'd surrounded myself with people who could help me get through that. And it was a process that I went through largely alone. And it took me a long time to get over it.
I think the concept of burnout as well is so real in today's times, right? And it's something that I'm sure many people on this call have experienced, if not are experiencing right now. And I think that if you are in one of those situations, I mean, this is where the biggest sense of support comes from, with your board of directors and that support structure and network. And again, like we've mentioned previously, and it's all about the journey, right? And so how we evolve through that journey. And this is where the value comes from having these people to challenge the thinking and allow you to start questioning things in a different manner, I guess, right? On that note, where we are, does anybody have any questions for us? Is everybody still there, or have I put you to sleep?
I don't think.
Give me some reaction, some anything. Are we still there? I only see Shane. I see Mpo. Are we there, guys? Okay, let's see what questions we have.
So Melody's raised her hand, and so is Shanae.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I missed that. Okay, Melody, let's go with you first.
Hello, am I audible?
Hi.
Yes, you
yes,
are.
You are.
Okay, I really loved what Bryony just said right now about surrounding yourself with people who know more than you. And actually being comfortable around people who know. I remember when we started our sessions, I did share that I battled a lot of imposter syndrome, like when I started my studies here in UCT. Mostly because I applied, I came here, I'm thinking, okay, I'm having an idea, I want to branch my career, I want to develop my career like this. This is how this program is going to help this. And I mean, all these programs that I've registered for, I have some background on them. So it's not like it's totally new things. So, and then my first course, slope stability, I literally almost left school, quit, because it was literally just, I didn't know anything that was being taught. And I think I realized that about myself, that also if I'm in a place that I'm exposed to new knowledge, like there are things that I don't know, it makes me so uncomfortable. So like, yeah, like, but that's how you grow basically. And I really do, I loved Brownie's point on that one.
Thanks for sharing that, Melody.
Yes.
Brownie, do you want to maybe add anything onto what Melody's said?
Oh, you know that vulnerability and learning are in the same spectrum. If you want to learn, you have to get vulnerable. You have to put yourself into a place where you don't know something. You have to do it for the first time. You can't build your edge, your confidence, your ability, your experience without getting vulnerable. And so I guess my response to Melody would be, when you find yourself where you don't know something, actually celebrate that, because that's the first step into getting into learning. And then look for the people that are going to help you kind of answer the questions that you have. I think a lot of us think we're supposed to know the answers to things, and so we don't ask the questions. But I would love to see everybody leading with curiosity and with courage, because the moment we have those two things, we are immediately kicking off our learning journey.
For sure. You've probably entered the right room when you enter a room like that as well, from a learning perspective and a growth perspective. And Bali, I see you're off mute. Is there something you wanted to add as well?
Yeah, Raksha, I think I just wanted to add to Brioni in terms
Go for it. Yep.
You know, that the board of directors help you to learn, right? But it also helps you to unlearn certain things.
Yes.
And I think we need to be open to actually unlearn. And, you know, for me, growing up in South Africa, you know, with our history, sometimes when you go, as you grow up, maybe you're being told certain things, right? And that forms your unconscious bias in terms of where you grow up. Coming into, you know, my career at that young age as a young Black African female, already, you know, there is the voice because of where, you know, you grow up and everything else, that there's certain races that will not like you. There's certain races that will teach you, that will treat you in this particular way. So you end up expecting to be treated in that way, right? And I think earlier in my career, I wish I could have had a different, I mean, people that were not like me, right? Maybe from those races, to actually realize that not everyone is like that. It was really, you know, painful when you come into the career, in your job, and as you look back, you realize some of the uncomforts are actually caused by you and your own unconscious bias, because everyone is a suspect, right? And you start realizing that there's nothing wrong with these people. We can't paint everyone in one brush and say everyone is this. So I think, you know, as Brioni was saying, sometimes we need to unlearn. I had to unlearn that, you know, I cannot put everyone and say, you know, everyone is racist or everyone is sexist. I must actually ask yourself the question sometimes, what is it that you're doing? What is in your unconscious bias that you actually seeing or you're expecting? You know, sometimes, you know, they say the universe has 2 ears, it listens. If you're expecting something, that's what you get. So yeah, I just wanted to you know, highlight that in terms of unlearning certain things.
Yeah.
That's such a huge concept all on itself as well, right? Because unlearning it and being aware of what it is that you need to unlearn in itself is such a massive part of the journey. And gosh, unconscious biases, I think we can have a whole other session and discussion around that one. That's a huge topic all on its own. But yeah, thanks, Sidi. That's a very important point for us. And Bali, I don't know if you want to add anything before we go to Shanae.
Yes, I just wanted to say to Melody, you know, well done for pivoting and for taking on your studies. I think it's perfectly normal to feel the way that you feel. You know, I've recently also been, you know, assessing myself and the, I guess, little things that I'm also challenged by. And I think I've been reading a book by Susan Jeffers, and, you know, that just talks about how we need to be in these uncomfortable spaces and experience pain in order to grow. And I think where you are, stay there and, push through. I know definitely that, whatever you're going through, it will definitely be worth it. The pain of what you're going through is definitely worth it. So stick it through.
Is that
Thanks,
Feel the
Mbali.
Fear and Do It Anyway, Mbali?
Yes, that's the book. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh, Brian, you just pop it in the chat for us.
I'm going to now.
Perfect. Thank you. Shanae.
So firstly, I just want to say it feels like being at home. So lovely to see,
Oh,
to see you
that's
ladies
good.
again. My gosh. And then I want to ask, Brian, you saying there's 10 seats at your board of directors.
Yes.
Are those 10 seats for specific roles, different roles? I tried to access the blog, but then it's saying I must first verify the email, and I haven't received the email. So just wanted to know, are there specific roles for those 10
Yes.
seats?
There are. So let me go through them quickly and you will get the email shortly. I've put a membership wall on my blog because I'm sneaky
Okay.
that way. So the first one is the mentor. Okay, so that's someone who's been where you want to go and she can show you the way. The second one is the coach. So that's somebody who asks you hard questions, gets you curious, helps you unlearn. Okay, gets you conscious, curious, and then starting to figure out what's the way that you actually want to be. The information sharer. So there is so much information in the world, we can't know everything. So this is the person who gets their information really quickly. They know where to get it, and they're great at sharing information. The anti-mentor. As I said earlier, that's the person who acts as a red flag, indicating to you how you might be if you're not intentional about the way in which you show up every single day. There's the encourager. So this is a person who believes in you wholeheartedly, who cheers you on, who reminds you why you're doing the things you're doing. We really need those people because we can surround ourselves by people who really kind of push us to be our best, but the encourager is a lot more gentle and reminds us of our why. But she's not somebody who's kind of full of that toxic positivity. She's not the person who goes, oh, you're amazing, you can do this, you've got this. She's the one who says, yeah, you're going through a hard time and your feelings make sense and I get it, but I'm here with you and I know you've got the strength and together we can make this happen. Okay. The inner mentor, and this is one of my favorite ones, she is you. She is with you wherever you go. She is an older, wiser, more integrated, calmer version of you. And learning to access her voice so that you can really kind of get clear on what you already know is a great way of having a board member with you no matter where you are. And she's really kind of the alter voice of the inner critic. And I think it's important to have an inner critic on your board as well, because your inner critic is there saying, don't get out of your comfort zone. But at the same time, when she's saying, don't get out of your comfort zone, she's also pointing out that you are about to step out of your comfort zone. And that's really exciting because outside of your comfort zone is where you're going to learn and grow. So you need to have her on your board, but you need to be very careful how much airtime you give her. Then there's the devil's advocate. And the devil's advocate is really that person who attacks your theory, attacks your methodology, attacks the way that you're doing things, but doesn't attack you. They're really there to challenge, to be provocative, to flip your thinking around and make sure that you can defend everything that you're choosing to do. There's the truth teller, and that's the person who tells it like it is, okay? But in a deeply caring way. So she cares greatly and she challenges directly. You know exactly what you need to do when you hear from this person. And I think this is one of the most important people to have, because we so often have people who avoid giving feedback or give really kind of fake, kind of saccharine sweet feedback. But a lot of us really struggle to give candid, direct feedback. And so that is somebody to look out for. There's the sponsor, and this is the person who introduces you, helps you find the opportunities that you need, catapults you into the next opportunity. They generally look for people who are high performers, so you really have to kind of be reciprocal in how they invest their time and energy in you, and they often come from your organization. There's the connector. So that's the person who's great at networking, who knows huge numbers of people, and always when you're talking to them, they go, oh, I know who you should talk to about that. I know where you can get that information. I know somebody who can introduce you to somebody else. I know about a job that you should apply for. They connect you with people, with opportunities, with all sorts of things. And I think that is the 10. Those are the 10 seats on your board.
Thank you so much, Bryony.
My pleasure.
Thanks for sharing that, Bryony. I think that's useful for everyone as well. So thanks for the question, Shanae. Is there anybody else who would like to ask anything or to raise any questions at this point?
Raksha, I see there's a I see there is a question from Karabu that says, I like the description. Okay, I think that's maybe just a comment. I like the description of the people on the board.
Great.
Awesome.
Indamalena's got her hand up.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there we go.
Good evening, ladies. It's nice to be here again. I have a question for Bryony. I see you mentioning all the people in your board, and then you also mentioned the anti-mentor and also the I was busy writing it down here. The devil's advocate. What is the difference between those two people? What are their roles actually? How do they differ?
So the anti-mentor and the devil's advocate.
Yes.
The anti-mentor is the person who reminds you of how you might show up if you're not intentional in the way that you show up. Okay, so in my life, one of my anti-mentors is somebody who is really technically competent but gets very shouty and can be really hard to work with, and despite the fact that his work is impeccable, people avoid him. And he's my anti-mentor because he reminds me that when I get frustrated and I'm tired and I don't have a lot of energy left in me, I can get shouty and I can get ratty and I can get very impatient. Okay, so every time I start to feel like I'm getting there, I go, oh, I remember so-and-so. I don't like that part of that person. I don't want to be like that. The devil's advocate is the person who asks you really, really tough questions and really interrogates your decision-making, your thinking, your methodology, your approach, all the things that you're kind of putting out there for somebody to scrutinize. Okay, so they're not somebody that you don't want to be. They're the person who interrogates your methodology and makes sure that you are 100% prepared to defend anything that you do. Is that clear, Ndmalelo?
Yes, it's all clear. Thank you.
Cool. Perfect.
I see Karabo did have a follow-up question. She says, as an introvert, how do we reach out to those people to formulate the board, especially if you've got a small network? Siri, I don't know if you maybe want to touch on that for us?
Yeah, thanks, Raksha. I mean, I was just looking at the question, and for me on my connector, it's actually not a person, but LinkedIn, right? For me, I use it as a connector in terms of, and I think for Karabo, saying as an introvert, I use LinkedIn and I make sure that I connect to certain people, and I use it a lot in terms of, okay, this is where I want to go. Who am I going to look up for? So sometimes it's not necessarily a knock on someone's door and actually asking them or reaching out to them. And I think another thing is that people can actually be on your board of directors without them knowing. As an HR director, the shop stewards, the union is my truth teller. If I want to hear the gist and I want to hear the truth, I have a meeting with the union, right? And we have lunch and we just say, you know what, it's just a catch up. You would hear all the stories of all the things that are, going bad, or things that you need to rectify. Some people might say, no, you know what, it's not necessary, but that's the truth that hurts, and sometimes that's the truth that I want to hear so that I can be able to do certain things. So I think just in terms of you can use things like LinkedIn. Some of these forums, that
Absolutely.
we have now can also be, a connection point in terms of a connector position.
Yeah, and I think that these forums definitely facilitate those networks as well. And I see the other question from Jabulila here is it possible to have one person serve more than one position? And Bryony's answered it, but I think it speaks to the same point. If you've got a small network, I think almost definitely, right? I mean, I've got, sometimes one person wearing 2 or 3 different hats from my perspective. And I think it's just about what it is that you're looking for and what you're needing at that stage of the process or the situation or whatever it might be. And you can still have a board with three people or 4 people. I think 10 is a good guideline, right? Bryony, is that fair to say? But yeah, it's not cast in stone.
And, those 10 are my suggestions, okay? They're not cast in stone. They are not what you have to do. It's thoughts on what I think at any point in time your board might look like. But quite honestly, you can define the roles that you want yourself, okay? So at the moment, I'm starting to amp up my marketing and my positioning again. And there's somebody on LinkedIn who I don't want to ask directly for any advice, but I watch what she does, and she positions herself so impeccably. She is consistent in how she posts stuff. She knows exactly what's going on, and she advocates for herself in a way that I have never been brave enough to do. And so she's on my board of directors at the moment as my director of marketing mentoring, because every single day I look at her stuff and I go, why am I not doing it like this? How is it that somebody who's 29 years old is blowing up the internet, and I think I'm doing a good job, but I'm nowhere close to what she's doing? So she's never going to know that she's my marketing mentor, but she is. And so and I think I've probably gone completely off of a tangent, but as a introvert, you don't have to approach anybody, okay? And absolutely, you can define what seats you want on your board based on the need that you have over the next year or 2. So I've got a lot of people on my board right now that I'm watching because of how they position themselves, because of how they advocate, because of how they put themselves out there, and they are just so courageous in talking about what they do and how they help people, and how they're building their profile in the world.
Thanks for that, Bryony. I saw Valencia had her hand up, but she's disappeared. Are you still there? I'm not sure if you have a question for us.
Hi, Raksha. Thank you. Yes, I have a question.
Go for it.
And so I just wanted to understand and perhaps just be advised, because Bryony mentioned that this lady is on the board of your directors, but she isn't cognizant of that. On our board, is it advisable to inform some of the people of their role, and perhaps maybe I'm just thinking it's maybe situational? So in this case, the lady that you had mentioned, she isn't aware, but perhaps people in our closer circle, would it be advised? I'm just thinking, for an example, in my case, I'm seeing the member, the encourager, and I'm thinking of my mother, and I'm thinking that perhaps her just understanding that she has an additional role in my life maybe could be encouraging, perhaps because she might serve as that board member for other people. Do you think that's advisable, or better that we kind of internalize?
No, I don't. I think you can do this in whatever way works for you. And I think there's a really beautiful conversation to be had with people who you want to know are on your board and in what role they play. And I mean, it's something like, Mom, you encourage me so beautifully, and that's what I need when I'm feeling low. and I've just learned about this concept of a board of directors, and I want you to know that that is the seat you have on my board. If I was your mom, I would be absolutely thrilled to know that that was the position that I was playing. In my life, I have somebody who's my truth teller, and he tells it like it is, and it hurts me sometimes, but it really gets me to see things that I don't want to see. And I've recently said to him, I know that when you tell me the truth, I can trust exactly what you're saying. So that is the role, no matter how upset I get when you tell me the truth, that's the role that I need you to play, because I need to be able to see how I'm showing up. And so, yes, there are some people who I think you should be really intentional about telling, and others who don't really need to know. But it's entirely up to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thanks.
I guess there's power in it being conscious and unconscious as well, right? I mean, but again, it depends on you and what you're looking for through that process. Shani, I see your hand, but I've just got a question here from Zanele. Bryony and CD spoke about unlearning certain things, and in the background it was a study and go to work. That's what I was taught, and I also learned in 3 different careers: finance, customer service, and mining. Any advice on how to now grow in these times, remaining relevant now in mining with an unplanned career, I guess? CD, I don't know if you would maybe want to take that one. She's addressed it to you as well.
Thanks, Raksha. I think looking at the question for Zanele, in terms of, how do I remain relevant now in mining or in an unplanned career, it must start with you, right? I think we talked about it in terms of managing your career, knowing what is it that you want. You must have that end in goal. You can be relevant anywhere. You can be relevant in mining, depending on what is it that you want. So I think, Zanele, it will need to have that internal conversation. Whether you are currently a customer service person, or we've got jobs where people are saying they're going to be taken by drones, right? And the question is, what job is it that you want to get into? Then from there, you then pave your way in terms of, okay, this is where I want to go. This is the board that I want. These are the people that I want to surround myself with. But I think it would be very important. You can be relevant at any point in your career. The question is, where is it that you want to go? Be it in HR, finance, whether you're in production, wherever you are. The question is, where do you want to go? And then you chant that clear path in terms of where you want to go. Because sometimes if you just, I want to be relevant in the global world, I want to be relevant in South Africa, you might be missing a niche there in terms of actually narrowing it. This question might be, boiling the ocean, but you might just want to narrow it down, bring it to the kitchen, into the kettle, and say, I want to boil only 2 cups of coffee. And this is why I want to not necessarily boil the whole ocean. So I think just narrow it a little bit. I think it can be relevant anywhere. That's my...
Mbali, you probably wear all of these hats as an entrepreneur as well in this industry, right? So maybe you can also share some insight in terms of how you stay relevant and can narrow it down and, do exactly as CD is saying.
Yeah, no, sure. I mean, it's a really important question that you're asking. And I think, it's one that one constantly needs to ask yourself, because in your career, you're constantly going up and down, zigzagging, your career is constantly evolving. So I would say that, like Tidi mentioned, I think sit down and kind of assess where it is that you want to go, what it is that you enjoy. That's very important. What is it that you enjoy? What are your values? Do you value, having a lot of money and what that could potentially give you, the lifestyle that you want? And what is the career that is going to give you that? Your values need to be aligned with where you are driving your career to. So I think you need to start sitting down and asking yourself some of those questions and get someone to help you to think through it. Once you've kind of mapped out what it is that you enjoy, what it is that is important to you in life, what are your values, get someone to sit down and help you to think around what is the career path that you're going to take. Perhaps it would require that you go back to school. I don't know. Perhaps it would require that you change careers completely. But I think it's something that can definitely be navigated just through identifying, those couple of questions that I just mentioned now.
If I can maybe add to that as well, Zanelli started with unlearning certain things, and it strikes me that we give ourselves labels. Okay, so we label the profession that we work in, the industry that we work in, what we do, and then we go, I can't be anything other than this, and so I think it's important to unlearn the labels that we give ourselves. Stop defining yourself as a human resources professional, a geologist, a mining engineer, a coach, a whatever, and start looking at the skill set that you have. Because a lot of these careers have very similar skill sets, they're just applied in very different ways. And when you're trying to define where you actually want to work, where you can make the most impact, where you can feel the most comfortable, where you can thrive the most, if you look at your skill set and look at how those can be applied in different contexts, you've got a much better chance of being able to identify where you're going to show up in the best way possible than if you say, I'm a geologist, where can I find a geologist job? So unlearn the labels that you've put on yourself and start redefining yourself by a suite of competencies that position you in a diverse array of contexts.
And definitely. Sorry, Raksha.
No, go ahead.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up, Bryony, because you also mentioned, Raksha, as an entrepreneur, I came from a background where I was a chemical engineer, turned to a project manager, then I became an entrepreneur. And as an entrepreneur, now I have to do HR, sales and marketing. I have to run operations. I have to know what each operation does. And it's you don't put yourself in a box. Explore and have a plan. I think explore, but have a plan.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I think we've got a follow-up career question on there as well, in terms of, does one ever get to know the right time to switch careers, or is it when it gets uncomfortable or lack progression? And Dumalelo asked that. Ladies, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit for us. Siri?
Raksha, I would say as soon as possible, as soon as you hate what you're doing, right? That is the time to actually switch, right? And maybe sometimes it might not be viable at the time, in terms of whether personal circumstances and whatnot. But in your mind, once you just hate what you're doing, and I think that's building to what Brian has said in terms of, once you realize I'm a geologist, but maybe I hate being a geologist, or I'm in HR, oh my God, I hate just dealing with those people issues. Once you realize that, you need now to understand and chant in terms of where is it that you want to go. And you've got people like coaches. And that's when you can now have a different board of directors, right? Board of directors that are actually going to help you, change your career. If you've got a mentor, you might have someone like Mbadi who has moved from, being a chemical engineer now to being, an expert in project management. So once you are clear in terms of, actually, I do want to change my career, who are the people that are going to help me along the way? You might have truth tellers, maybe someone at home who says, no, you will not be able to pay the bond. You can't just resign today. You will not be able, So I think once you know that this is not something that I like, this is not something that I want to do, that is the time. It's in that second, that moment, that it's time to change.
Yeah, it's
Go ahead,
when
Bryony.
I changed careers, I got to that point where it's just, I can't do this for another year, let alone until I retire. And that's when I knew it, and it still took me another year to shift from where I was and actually believe that I could change my path. But that was the point at which I knew I'm going to start changing. I don't know when, but I cannot do this for the next year, let alone the next 35 years of my life. And when you're feeling like that, it's a very clear sign. My advice would be, don't wait until you burn out. Go when it's still good. Go when your reputation is still intact. Go when you've still got a strong network. My biggest mistake in changing careers was that I changed once I'd burnt out. I'd burnt a lot of bridges, and I had spent a lot of time building a network outside of South Africa, but not in South Africa. And it was a very hard transition for me, and it's taken a long time and a huge amount of effort to rebuild. But I have a blog on transitioning careers, so I will share that if anybody wants it.
I'm sure that's going to be very helpful.
Sorry, Raksha, Brioni mentioned.
Yeah, go, Siri.
Leave when it's still rosy, right? In HR language, I say leave before they fire you, before they give you a dismissal letter for poor performance, because sometimes it shows, right? In terms of if you really hate something, there will be a time where someone will say, no, now let's get into that performance improvement plan discussion. So before it gets there, and sometimes it's a privilege to actually work for corporate companies where you can actually change your career. And I think it was, who said, moved from being in finance, customer service. Sometimes you can actually use the same employer, move from customer service and go to finance. And those are some of the benefits that you find in terms of working for corporate, that you are able to change. So you can use your employer, to change.
Definitely. I see we're at almost 7:25, so we can probably start wrapping up. Shanae, you've got your hand up. Is there any other questions, ladies, while Shanae shares her question with us?
I actually just wanted to comment on exactly what Bryony and Tidi said. I think for me, what I've seen, especially as not a geologist, I'm going to redefine what I am, right? With my skill set, but to say that you must position yourself in such a way that when an opportunity arises, whether it be a switch of a career, that you are ready for that. I think that's the best way to do it, to go on a good foot and also not be like in the position of being frustrated. Because once you wait for a position, you start getting frustrated. So I'd rather say focus on your development, focus on where you want to be. Even if it's just picking up a skill within your company, it doesn't have to necessarily be extra courses. Just get involved in projects or something like that can set you up for when the opportunity arises for you to switch a career, then you're ready.
Thanks for that, Shanae. Mbali?
I just wanted to mention that I think even though you're in the job and you hate it, dig deep within yourself to still do well. Because if you're going to try and move, especially within your organization, no one's going to want to move you around and propel your career forward if you're performing badly. So I think, I think just really search deep within yourself and try to get someone to mentor you and to guide you to maintain your reputation. Because there's plenty of opportunities, especially if you're in a corporate. So I think that's just what I wanted to add, Raksha.
Well, thanks. That's very good advice as well. Thank you for that. Ladies, we're going to start wrapping up. So, Mbali, maybe we can start with you. If you have any closing statements, any words of wisdom for our mentees as well.
Yeah, I think wrapping up, I'd just like to mention that when I was going through burnout, Bryony was there for me because she had been through it. And I think that's why it's so important to have your board of directors, because they've been there and they will help you to get through it. They'll have the tough conversations with you. They'll be your mirror and help you to see the stuff that you don't want to confront, but help you to overcome it. And I'm glad to say I've actually overcome it. I just wanted to also mention that it's so important to be authentic with your board of directors. Yes, you have to have people that are going to challenge you, but I think more than anything, it needs to be people that you're very comfortable with. Because in the past, I've asked people to mentor me that I just could not relate to. And you end up avoiding having conversations with those people. So I think if you're going to choose a mentor or choose a coach, let it be someone that you can have a really honest and really enjoyable discussion with, and come out of it feeling like I've grown, I can conquer the world, and not, oh my gosh, like I'm not cutting it, I'm not enough. And I think, just lastly, women, just generally, I think we can just be so hard on ourselves. We need to be kinder to ourselves, and learn to suppress that inner critic. I think that's one of the board members, Bryony. I don't know if you mentioned that one. And just have those inner dialogues. Have a conversation with yourself to say, it's not that bad. I'm doing enough. I am enough. And learning to overcome fear. I feel that most of the times, the things that hold us back from achieving all these things that we have set out to achieve is that fear of not wanting to connect to Bryony because Bryony's so up there. What am I going to say to her? Or Tidi is the HR exec in our company. I can't approach her. I love this book. Feel the fear and do it anyway. I feel like we should all get it, and just start pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones and start having conversations with the people that we're afraid to have conversations with, because those are our sponsors, those are our connectors, those are our potential mentors. So yeah, thanks, Raksha.
Oh, thanks, Mbali. That's really wonderful advice. I think, Siri, before we jump to you, I see there's a comment here which I think we might actually need to explore a little bit if we've still got a couple of minutes. Catherine, I don't know if you want to come on and maybe chat to us on this. She says, I don't even know how to go forward getting one because I've been failing to relate and some force you to go into their direction. Catherine, do you want to maybe share a little bit with us? I'm sure our ladies would love to give you some advice and guidance. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Evening, everyone. I would love this opportunity. Love to be thankful for this opportunity to be a part of this. So in my experience, I think so far I've had about 2 mentors. Can you all hear me properly?
Yes.
So I've had 2 mentors so far. So the first one, I was clear with which route I wanted to take. So we had a discussion in the beginning to say, okay, I'm in metallurgy, so I wanted to go through the production route, and then she was advising me to go through the NI route because she believes it worked out for her. So now it was the case that in her case, she was advising me to go through that, saying that it's much easier and it's better. And then on my side, honestly, I'm a production person. So we were arguing a bit here and there about that. We ended up parting ways. And then I had another one. Currently, I'm in safety maintenance stuff. So I'm looking up to someone who's in risk management. So I wanted to join the risk management route. And then now she's saying I'm confused and whatnot. She was advising me to rather go into project management. So such things are a bit confusing when you meet with someone and then you try to get them, give you guidance into what you want to do, but then they end up advising you to do something else. So I'm struggling to get a mentor right now, and I don't even know what to do anymore with my career. I'm a metallurgist. I don't even know where I'm going. So it's confusing.
Okay, Bryony, do you want to jump on that?
Yeah, so, firstly, if a mentor isn't helping you, get another mentor, okay?
Yep.
You don't have to stay with a mentor for life. They have some experience, but they don't know your world. They can only share from their world. So if it's not working for you, move on to the next mentor. Keep on trying until you find somebody that's actually helping you. Okay. Second thing is, you don't have to take the advice of your mentor. Okay. Just because somebody says, oh no, you should go this route because that's what I did, doesn't mean you should follow blindly and follow the route that they've taken. It's just take what is relevant for you, take what resonates, take what feels valuable, and discard the rest. Okay. Yeah, I think that's effectively what I want to say. Apply for our mentoring program next year. Okay, Catherine, we'd love to see an application from you. There's a lot of wisdom in the room. We can all mentor each other. And you know what? Use your network. If you're struggling, if you're confused, use the WIMSA network. Put a question out and ask who's had the experience that you actually want to get, and how do you get that experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are in the network that can help, who want to help. So use us. That's why we're here. That's the whole purpose of why WIMSA exists, is to network and to help facilitate some of these challenges that women are going through. So Catherine, please, I urge you to reach out within the network as well. And yeah, I have no doubt that a mentor or even just, a colleague or someone to just chat to will appear as a result of that. So, but let us know if you don't have any luck. Come back to Bryony or myself, and maybe we can try and help facilitate something for you as well. CD, any final words of wisdom for our ladies?
Yeah, thank you so much, I think, for this session. Sometimes, people will think that, you come in maybe as a speaker and then you don't learn. There's so much learning that I have for this type of forums. And I use this kind of forum, for connections as well. Today I'm on a call with, maybe 20 other people that I didn't know, right? I didn't know that there's Esther Dube, there's Catherine Makubela, but today I would go home, knowing that I have these people, right, in terms of network. So sometimes we actually think, it should be something that, takes a lot of time or, would push you out of your complete comfort zone, but it could be in forums like this where you are comfortable, it's a safe space. I must tell you, at this stage, I am, dealing with a personal situation where, as a PhD student, every single day, every single minute, I'm like, I am actually going to leave this, right? This year, I did my data collection last year, submitted, really worked hard. Sleepless nights, no family time, submitted. And when it came back, it was like, CD, you're not going through, right? There's a lot of things that you still need to do on data collection, this and that. And at that point, I just closed my door. My family doesn't even know about it. And I cried, right? Literally tears. And I was like, for the first time in my PhD journey, I'm literally crying. And I picked up a phone and I called, one of the, my PhD cohort. And I said, I'm really not finding a motivation for this. And it was like, Sidi, but they told us that this is not an easy journey. And I now use him as my encourager. He is going to graduate in September. I'm still struggling with data collection, right? But he's one person who actually encourages me, keeps me on my toes. And sometimes when he calls, I don't want to pick up because I've said I'll do something on Saturday, then I didn't do it, right? So sometimes you have people on your board of directors that you might not want to answer their call, but that's the most important call because the person is going to challenge me and said, Sidi, you said you're going to do this, send it to me. You said we will meet. So there are those people on your board of directors that it's an uncomfortable call, but it's a necessary call. At this stage, he's one person who's encouraging me because he knows and understands my purpose. And I think one thing as well, in terms of our career, we need to be it is important to be clear what you want. It touched my heart when Catherine said, now I don't know. I think when she closed, she said, now I don't know what to do with my career, right? And I don't know this, Brioni, if I'll be touching on some, and I was tempted to actually direct message her and say, Catherine, here's my email address, please call me. I want to be that coach to actually ask you the relevant questions, right?
Do it.
Do it.
All right, thank you. So Catherine, I'll do that for you. But sometimes you just want that person to actually ask you those questions in terms of what is it that you want. We should not be in this kind of forums and not use some of the opportunities that we actually have. And I think I always say, a closed mouth is a closed destiny. If you don't open your mouth and you ask for certain things, things will not happen to you. And sometimes we label ourselves and say, I'm an introvert, I cannot do this. I am, in that introvertness that you're calling yourself, in that label that you're calling yourself, be it true or, what is it that you can stretch yourself and actually do? You might just open your mouth, and open your mouth might just even be an email, that you can send to someone and say, I actually want you to be my sponsor. And it's not all the time you send something, people respond positively. Sometimes people will come and just be negative. Also, to have those shock absorbers. So I think in terms of a nutshell, be clear in terms of your career, where you want it to go, where you get a little bit stuck, get coaches, get mentors. Yes, you might not walk their journey, but get this board of directors in terms of, I think the 10 positions that you have, Brion, really sums it well. And I think everyone should actually start assigning a role depending on where they want to go.
Oh, thank you so much for that, Sidi. Really appreciate that. Catherine, you're in very good hands. So please reach out to Sidi as well and get in touch with her. Bryony, parting shots before we close off?
So I guess I want to flip it around to be intentional about how you want to show up and start thinking about what role you're playing on somebody else's board. What seat would you like to be filling on somebody else's board? Whose board do you think you might be a board member of and you don't know it? And most importantly, is there a risk that you're showing up on somebody else's board as their anti-mentor? I have no doubt that I am an anti-mentor on a few people's board. And if that helps them to see a version of themselves that they don't want to see, then I'm very happy to play that role. But that's not the role that I intend to play. And this conversation and thinking about this has reminded me about being intentional about how I show up and what roles I would like to be playing if I could choose on other people's boards. So think about that. It's just as important to intentionally create your own board of directors, but you are definitely on somebody else's board whether they are conscious of it or not, and be in the seat that you want to be in. Be in the seat that you could put on your CV if this was something that you put on your CV. And as Raksha said earlier, we are all here. We have these public sessions very specifically, very intentionally, because as much as we have a group of mentees who we meet with twice a month, we want the benefit of the things that we discuss in those mentoring groups to be much broader than that circle. So please keep joining these sessions. I don't know if you see it on your screen, but I've been recording this and transmitting this live to YouTube. So you're all on YouTube on my channel, and this video is available to you and to anybody else if they want to come and recap. Thank you, Raksha, for facilitating this session. And I just want to do a big kind of well done to Raksha, because this is her first facilitation of a panel, and I think it was done in an absolutely sterling manner. So thank you very much, and thanks to the other panelists.
Oh, thanks, Bryony. That's very kind. Mbali and Sidi, huge thank you as well. Also, the first time I physically met both of you, or rather, virtually met both of you. So thank you for all of the insights and all of the learnings. And like you guys said, this session is, as much as we learn so much from our panelists, we learn so much from everyone else in the room and through the conversation. So many thanks to everybody. Bryony, thank you as always for all of the insights and the wisdom. And to our mentees, we will see you guys next week. And to all of the other WIMSA mentor members, we have We have our Women's Day events that are coming up, so look out for those. And one of them is going to be a session on networking and how to actually network and navigate yourself through conversations and building relationships, which I think will also perhaps tie in nicely with us trying to create these boards of directors as well. So look out for that as well. Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful evening. And yes, go for it.
Wait. Raksha, that'll be an in-person event, won't it?
That will be an in-person event. So we're going to have a save the date that's going to go out probably this week still. So please look out for it and reserve your seats as soon as you see it, because seating is limited. So yeah, it's going to be a bit of a first come first serve situation, but definitely be part of it. We'll probably stream it as well. So if you do miss it in person, catch it online. But there's going to be speed networking, ladies. So I would join in person if I can.
Definitely.
What is the date for that session?
11th of August.
The 11th of August.
And one more thing, can I get a screenshot for social media?
You can.
Which
Cameras
means everybody
on,
needs to come on video. Okay, I've got two screens.
I'd love to come on video, but I'm load shedding.
Oh no! All right, we'll join a caricature for you.
That is perfect. No, she's got it. She's made a plan.
Fabulous. I love it. All right, I am going to take the first picture now. So if you're not on screen, get on screen quickly. Okay, I need to do another one because I've got two different screens. Okay,
when are we doing a fun one, Bryony?
Oh, okay. You tell us what the fun one is. Fabulous. And then I'm just going to do one more for just to make sure that I've got everybody. All right, big happy smiley faces. Awesome. Thank you. This was amazing.
Oh, wow.
Thanks, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Ladies.
Thank you, Rana. Thank you, TD and Bali. It was a wonderful session.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, fantastic.